Admiral Crawl stood on the command bridge of the massive flagship Dominion, his four arms clasped behind his back as he gazed at the holographic display of Earth's solar system. The blue-green planet seemed so small, so insignificant against the backdrop of space. Just another world to add to the growing Vex Empire. "Admiral, the fleet is assembled and awaiting your orders," said Officer Mech, approaching with a data tablet. "All 5,000 warships report combat readiness at optimal levels." Crawl's scaled skin rippled with satisfaction. The Vex Armada was the largest military force ever assembled in the known galaxy. 5,000 warships, each carrying hundreds of fighter craft and thousands of ground troops. A force so massive it blotted out stars when gathered together. "And what of the humans?" Crawl asked, his voice deep and gravelly. Mech swiped across the tablet, bringing up intelligence reports. "Primitive, Admiral. Their most advanced ships number fewer than 50. Their weapons are basic energy and projectile types. Nothing that can penetrate our shields, and physically, they are weak. No natural armor, limited strength, poor sensory capabilities." Crawl nodded. It was as he expected. The conquest of Earth would be simple, quick, and add yet another resource-rich world to the Empire. Emperor Vox would be pleased. "Summon the command staff," Crawl ordered. Within minutes, 20 senior officers gathered in the war room adjacent to the bridge. Maps and tactical displays covered the walls, showcasing every detail of Earth's defenses. Crawl entered last, his tall frame causing the others to straighten to attention. "Officers of the glorious Vex Armada," Crawl began, pacing slowly around the central table. "Today we begin our conquest of the human world called Earth. Our intelligence shows they are technologically inferior and physically weak. We outnumber their space forces 100 to 1. The officers clicked their mandibles in approval, a sound like rattling stones that echoed through the room. "This will be my 18th campaign," Crawl continued. "And like the 17 before it, it will end in complete victory." Officer Tark, head of ground forces, raised a clawed hand. "Admiral, what resistance can we expect on the surface?" "Minimal," Crawl replied confidently. "Humans have divided their world into separate territories they call nations. They cannot even unite among themselves. They will fall quickly." The meeting continued for an hour as Crawl outlined the invasion plan. First, they would eliminate Earth's orbital defenses. Then they would establish control over key strategic locations. Finally, they would accept Earth's surrender or begin systematic elimination of resistance centers. As the officers filed out, Mech remained behind. "Something troubles you, Officer Mech?" Crawl asked, noticing his second-in-command's hesitation. "Admiral, with respect, I reviewed some additional cultural data on humans. There are inconsistencies that concern me." Crawl waved a dismissive hand. "Explain." "Their history is filled with warfare, Admiral. Despite their physical limitations, they have adapted and overcome challenges repeatedly. They seem to thrive in conflict." Crawl laughed, a harsh sound rarely heard from the stoic Admiral. "All species fight, Mech. It is the way of the universe. But none fight like the Vex. None conquer like the Vex." "Of course, Admiral," Mech said, lowering his head respectfully. "I simply thought it worth noting." "Noted," Crawl replied. "Now return to your station. We enter the outer solar system in 6 hours." After Mech left, Crawl moved to his private chamber. The room was sparse by Vex standards, just a sleep platform, a meditation area, and a wall of campaign trophies. He looked at the collection of symbols taken from conquered worlds. 17 different civilizations, 17 victories. Earth would be the 18th. Crawl settled onto his meditation platform and closed his 3 eyes, reflecting on his rise through the ranks. Born to a lower-caste family on the Vex homeworld, he had fought and clawed his way up through the military hierarchy. His first notable victory came as a young captain, when he crushed the rebellion on mining colony ZT-12. That earned him command of a destroyer, then a battle group, and finally, After the successful conquest of the Tory Federation, command of the entire armada, Emperor Vox had personally pinned the imperial medal on Crawl's chest and whispered, "Bring me more worlds." And Crawl had, each campaign more glorious than the last. The Vex Empire now spanned 3 galactic quadrants, with billions of subjugated beings working to enrich the homeland. A soft chime broke Crawl from his meditation. "Admiral," came Mech's voice through the communication system. "We have entered the solar system. Long-range sensors detect movement near the gas giant they call Jupiter." "Human ships?" Crawl asked, rising swiftly. "Yes, Admiral. Small patrol craft. They appear to be monitoring our approach." "Let them watch," Crawl said with satisfaction. "Let them tremble as they see the might of the Vex Armada bearing down on them." Crawl returned to the bridge, where the crew worked with quiet efficiency. The massive view screen showed the Armada stretching out before them, thousands of ships moving in perfect formation. The sight never failed to fill Crawl with pride. "Time to human homeworld?" he asked. "At current speed, 3 Earth days." "Admiral," replied the navigation officer. "Increase to battle speed," Crawl ordered. "I want to reach their moon in 2 days." "Admiral," objected Mech quietly, "accelerating will spread our formation and reduce our defensive capabilities if we encounter resistance." Crawl fixed his second-in-command with a hard stare. "What resistance, Mech? Their few ships are no match for even one of our destroyer groups, and I want this conquest completed quickly." Emperor Vox grows impatient for results. "Yes, Admiral," Mech said, turning to relay the orders. The great engines of the Armada roared to life, pushing the massive fleet faster toward the inner solar system. As they passed the orbit of Saturn, long-range sensors detected more human ships gathering near Mars. "They appear to be assembling a defensive force," "Admiral," reported the sensor officer. Crawl studied the tactical display with amusement. The humans had gathered perhaps 40 ships in total, small, lightly armed vessels that looked fragile compared to the massive Vex warships. "They intend to fight," Crawl said, unable to hide his surprise, "with such inferior numbers and technology." "Perhaps they hope to negotiate," suggested Mech. Crawl shook his head. "The Vex do not negotiate. We conquer." He turned to his communications officer. "Prepare a message to the humans. Tell them resistance is futile. Tell them the Vex Armada has never known defeat. Tell them their only hope for survival is immediate and unconditional surrender." As the message was transmitted toward Earth, Crawl felt a strange sensation he hadn't experienced in many years. Anticipation. Not for the battle itself, which would surely be brief and one-sided, but for what would come after. Another victory, another world for the Empire, another trophy for his wall. The glory of the Vex would soon shine on Earth. The bridge of the Earth Defense Force flagship Defiant buzzed with tense activity. Captain Tom Reed leaned over the tactical display, studying the massive alien fleet approaching Mars orbit. His weathered face, marked by 20 years of military service, remained calm despite the odds they faced. 5,000 ships, muttered Lieutenant Hill, the tactical officer. "We're looking at 100-to-1 disadvantage, Captain." Reed straightened up and looked around at his crew. 50 men and women, the best Earth had to offer, all watching him for guidance. Beyond the Defiant, only 49 other combat-ready vessels stood between Earth and the alien Armada. "Numbers aren't everything," Reed said firmly. "We've studied the transmissions from the outer colonies. These Vex rely on overwhelming force and standard tactics. They've never faced a desperate humanity." Reed turned to his communications officer. "Patch me through to all EDF vessels." When the channel opened, Reed spoke clearly and confidently. "This is Captain Reed. By now you've all seen what we're up against. The enemy outnumbers us 100-to-1. They've conquered 17 systems before reaching us. They expect us to surrender or be crushed." He paused, looking at the determined faces of his bridge crew. "But they don't know humans. We don't go quietly. We don't follow the rules when our backs are against the wall. Fleet Command has authorized Operation Hornet's Nest. Break into your assigned groups. Hit them fast. Hit them where they don't expect it. Make them pay for every inch toward Earth. Readout. The Earth fleet split into 10 battle groups of 5 ships each, tiny compared to the wall of alien vessels approaching. Reed commanded Alpha Group, which would make first contact with the Vex. All ships, battle stations, Reed ordered. Activate stealth systems and prepare for micro-jump on my mark. The 5 ships of Alpha Group engaged their experimental stealth technology, becoming nearly invisible to standard sensors. Reed had studied the Vex sensor capabilities from data gathered by the outer colonies before they fell. He knew the limitations. Jump now, he commanded. In an instant, the 5 Earth vessels disappeared from their position and reappeared at the very edge of the approaching Vex fleet, targeting the ships that appeared to be scouts. On the bridge of the Dominion, Admiral Crawl received the humans' response to his surrender demand. It wasn't what he expected. "They've refused, Admiral," reported the communications officer. "The message simply says, humans don't surrender." Crawl made a dismissive gesture. "Their choice is made. They will learn what happens to those who defy the Vex Empire." "Admiral," called the sensor officer suddenly. "Small energy signatures detected on our right flank. 5 vessels have appeared near Scout Group 7. Kroll turned to the tactical display. "Human ships. How did they get there without detection?" "Unknown, Admiral. They were not there 3 seconds ago." Kroll studied the readings with growing interest. "What are they doing?" "They appear to be attacking our scout vessels, Admiral," replied the tactical officer. "Scout Group 7 reports taking fire." Kroll felt a flash of irritation. The humans were employing some kind of surprise tactic, but it would make no difference to the outcome. "Destroy them," he ordered simply. 3 Vex destroyers broke formation and moved to intercept the human vessels. But as they approached, the Earth ships executed another micro-jump, disappearing from sensors. "Where did they go?" Kroll demanded. "Scanning. They've reappeared behind our interceptors, Admiral. They're targeting the destroyer's engine systems with precision weapons." Kroll watched in disbelief as one of his destroyers reported critical engine failure. The humans were using small, focused attacks against vulnerable systems rather than engaging in direct combat. "This is not standard military doctrine," Kroll said, mostly to himself. "What are they trying to accomplish?" "Admiral," Mech said quietly, "they're testing our responses, learning our weaknesses." Before Kroll could reply, the sensor officer called out again. "New contacts. Another 5 human vessels have appeared on our left flank. They're targeting our communication relay ships." For the next hour, the pattern continued. Small groups of Earth ships would appear, strike at specific targets, and disappear before the Vex could mount an effective response. They never engaged directly with the main Vex battle groups, instead picking off support vessels, communications relays, and scouts. Krull's irritation grew with each report. This is not how battles are fought. They're using cowards' tactics. Mech studied the tactical display thoughtfully. Not cowardly, Admiral. Smart. They know they can't match our firepower, so they're avoiding direct confrontation. "It changes nothing," Krull insisted. "We've lost only 12 ships from an armada of thousands. Their efforts are futile." "It changes nothing," Krull insisted. "We've lost only 12 ships from an armada of thousands. Their efforts are futile." Yet something bothered him about the human tactics. No species had ever approached battle this way against the Vex. Usually, inferior forces would mass their ships together for greater defensive capability. The humans were doing the opposite, spreading out, striking from multiple directions, then retreating. "Admiral," Mech said hesitantly, "I believe they're analyzing our response patterns. Each attack tests a different aspect of our defenses." Krull considered this. To what end? They must know they cannot win. "Perhaps winning means something different to them," Mech suggested. "Not conquest, but survival." A new alert sounded on the bridge. "Admiral, we're detecting unusual energy readings from the fourth planet," reported the science officer. "The humans call it Mars." "Explain," Crawl demanded. "It appears they've placed some kind of weapons platforms on several of Mars' moons. They're powering up now." Crawl studied the readings. "Target those platforms. Full barrage." The Vex fleet fired massive energy weapons toward Mars moons, but as the beams approached, something unexpected happened. The human ships that had been harassing their flanks suddenly executed synchronized jumps to positions between the Vex fleet and Mars. They projected some kind of energy field that redirected the Vex weapons' fire back toward the fleet. 3 Vex cruisers took direct hits from their own weapons. For the first time, Crawl felt a flicker of unease. How did they do that? Our weapon signatures should be impossible to redirect. Mech stepped closer to the display. "Admiral, I believe they've been studying Vex technology, perhaps from wreckage left in the outer systems we conquered." "Impossible," Crawl said flatly. "Our technology is too advanced for them to understand so quickly." Yet the evidence was before him. Somehow, these primitive humans had analyzed Vex weapons systems and developed countermeasures. The human vessels disappeared again, executing another jump. The bridge fell silent as everyone waited for their next move. "Admiral," said the communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from one of the human ships." "Put it through," Crawl ordered. A human face appeared on the screen. Captain Reed looked directly at Crawl with steady eyes. "Admiral of the Vex fleet, I am Captain Tom Reed of the Earth Defense Force. Consider this a demonstration of what you'll face if you continue toward Earth. We may be outnumbered, but we're fighting for our home. Every mile you advance will cost you dearly. Think carefully about whether Earth is worth the price you'll pay." The transmission cut off. Crawl stood motionless for a moment, then turned to Mech. "They think they can intimidate the Vex armada with parlor tricks and threats." "Admiral," Mech said carefully, "we should consider altering our standard approach. These humans are unpredictable." Crawl's 3 eyes narrowed. "We continue as planned. Move the fleet forward. Full combat formation. Let's see how these humans handle the full might of the Vex armada." As the massive fleet advanced toward Mars, Crawl couldn't completely shake the feeling that something about this conquest would be different from the others. These humans fought unlike any species he had encountered before. But it wouldn't matter. No one defeated the Vex armada. No one. The Vex armada moved through the space between Mars and Earth like a massive dark cloud. Admiral Crawl stood on the bridge of the Dominion, watching as the human forces seemingly retreated from their positions around Mars. "They abandoned their outer defenses," Crawl observed with satisfaction. "Perhaps they now understand the futility of resistance." Officer Mech studied the tactical display with concern. "Admiral, I find this withdrawal troubling. The humans have shown themselves to be clever. This may be another tactic." Crawl made a dismissive gesture with one of his 4 arms. "Or it may simply be that they realized their position was hopeless. Continue advance as planned." The massive Vex fleet pushed forward, following standard invasion protocol. The main battle groups formed a spearhead, with support vessels and carriers protected in the center of the formation. Scout ships ranged ahead, watching for signs of human resistance. "We will reach Earth's..." The tactical display showed the Earth fleet, no longer separated into small groups but now moving in a coordinated attack pattern. They targeted the Vex ships affected by the electromagnetic dust, firing precision weapons at engine sections and weapons arrays. "Return fire," Crawl ordered. "All operational ships protect the disabled vessels." The still-functioning Vex ships tried to organize a defense, but the human vessels moved with unexpected speed and agility, darting between the larger alien warships and continuing their precise attacks. On the main view screen, Crawl watched in growing alarm as a human ship approached one of his disabled cruisers. Instead of destroying it, the humans attached themselves to the hull. "What are they doing?" he demanded. "It appears to be a boarding action, Admiral," replied the tactical officer, sounding confused. They're cutting through the hull. Boarding? They dare to board Vex ships. Crawl could hardly believe it. Such tactics were unheard of in modern space warfare. Over the next hour, the situation deteriorated rapidly. The humans had boarded 7 disabled Vex vessels. Shortly after each boarding, the ship's systems came back online, but now they were turning their weapons against their own fleet. They're capturing our ships and using them against us. Crawl roared in disbelief. Mech's expression was grim. They must have figured out how to bypass our security protocols. This suggests an understanding of our technology that should be impossible for such a primitive species. A priority communication came through from one of the captured vessels. A human face appeared on screen, a female with short gray hair and intense eyes. This is Commander James Stone of Earth Defense Force Special Operations. Thanks for the generous donation to our fleet. Admiral, your ships are quite impressive, though we've already found several ways to improve them. The transmission cut off abruptly. Improve them, Crawl repeated, his voice barely a whisper. A cold feeling spread through him as he realized the implications. Somehow, these humans were not just using Vex technology. They were understanding it, adapting it, and enhancing it. Admiral, said Mech urgently, we must withdraw and regroup. We've lost almost 500 ships now, either disabled or captured. This is no longer a simple conquest. For the first time in his long military career, Crawl considered retreat. The thought was so alien to him that he physically recoiled from it. No, he said firmly. The Vex armada does not retreat. We still outnumber them greatly. Form all operational ships into defensive spheres. Launch all fighter craft. We will crush this resistance with overwhelming force. Mech looked as though he wanted to object, but instead nodded and turned to relay the orders. As the Vex fleet reorganized, the humans pulled back, taking their captured ships with them. The lull in battle gave Crawl time to assess the damage. Nearly 10% of his armada was now either disabled or in enemy hands. It was an unprecedented loss for the Vex, who typically conquered worlds with minimal casualties. Admiral, said the communications officer, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. The main screen lit up with the image of Captain Reed. Behind him stood Commander Stone and several other humans in military uniforms. Admiral Crawl, said Reed calmly, I hope we have your attention now. We recovered data cores from your disabled ships. We know about your 17 previous conquests. We know how you operate, your standard tactics, your technical specifications, your weaknesses. Crawl stared at the human with growing unease. You see, Admiral, Reed continued, the difference between us is simple. You conquer. We survive. You follow protocols. We adapt. You rely on superiority. We embrace inferiority and find ways to turn it into strength. You still outnumber us, but numbers aren't everything, as you're starting to learn. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge of the Dominion in silence. Crawl turned to look at his officers. For the first time, he saw doubt in their eyes. They had never experienced such losses, such unexpected resistance. Prepare all remaining ships for full attack, he ordered, his voice harsher than usual. Launch all reserve fighters. We will push through to Earth immediately and end this resistance at its source. As the orders went out, Crawl moved to a private communication console and opened a secure channel to the Vex homeworld. For the first time in his career, he considered requesting reinforcements. The thought filled him with shame, but also with something else, a feeling so unfamiliar that it took him several moments to identify it. Fear. The command center deep beneath Earth's surface buzzed with activity. Holographic displays showed the positions of the Vex fleet and Earth's defensive forces. Captain Reed and Commander Stone stood side by side, watching as the alien armada regrouped after their ambush in the asteroid field. They're forming a classic hammer and anvil formation, Reed observed. Crawl is going to throw everything at us now. Stone nodded, her face illuminated by the blue glow of the tactical display. He's predictable. Vex military doctrine doesn't account for major losses. Their only response to setbacks is to increase force. A young officer approached with a data tablet. "Captain, we've finished analyzing the biological samples retrieved from the captured Vex ships." Reed took the tablet and studied it with Stone looking over his shoulder. "This is exactly what we needed. Get this to Dr. Miller immediately." As the officer hurried away, Stone turned to Reed. "Will it be ready in time?" "It has to be," Reed replied grimly. "We've bloodied their nose, but they still have thousands of ships. We need every advantage we can get." The main screen lit up with an incoming transmission. General Ward, the overall commander of Earth's military forces, appeared on screen. "Captain Reed." "Commander Stone. The President has approved Operation Sunburn. You have full authorization to deploy all special weapons." Reed straightened. "Thank you, General. We'll make it count." After the transmission ended, Reed turned to his communications officer. "Signal all Earth Defense Force ships. Execute Phase 2. On the bridge of the Dominion, Admiral Crawl watched as his reorganized fleet moved toward Earth in a massive formation designed to overwhelm any defense. Nearly 4,000 ships remained under his command, still an overwhelming force despite the unexpected losses. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said the tactical officer. "Fighter squadrons launched and in attack position." Crawl nodded. "Commence the attack. Full speed ahead." The massive Vex fleet surged forward, thousands of ships moving as one unstoppable force. Smaller fighter craft swarmed ahead like a cloud of deadly insects. "Human vessels detected," reported the sensor officer. "They appear to be forming a defensive line between us and their planet." Kroll studied the tactical display. The humans had arranged their 50 original ships, plus the 7 captured Vex vessels, in a loose formation near Earth's moon. "They think they can stop us with so few ships," Kroll said with a harsh laugh. "Their bravery is admirable but foolish." Officer Mech studied the display with concern. "Admiral, their formation seems designed to draw us in. I recommend caution." "Caution." Kroll turned to his second-in-command. "We outnumber them nearly 80-1 even after our losses. We will crush them with overwhelming force." The Vex fleet continued its advance, the distance to the human defensive line rapidly closing. "Energy signatures detected from the human vessels," called the sensor officer. "They appear to be preparing to fire." "Raise all shields," Kroll ordered calmly. "Their weapons cannot penetrate our—" He never finished the sentence. The human ships fired, but what emerged from their weapons wasn't the energy beams or missiles the Vex expected. Instead, they released clouds of glittering particles that spread out rapidly, engulfing hundreds of Vex ships in seconds. "What is this?" Kroll demanded as alarms began to sound across the bridge. "Unknown substance, Admiral," replied the science officer frantically. It's penetrating our hulls. Sensors show it's targeting our life support systems." Reports flooded in from throughout the fleet. The mysterious substance was somehow getting through Vex shields and hull plating, causing crew members to collapse at their stations. It wasn't killing them, but rendering them unconscious or severely disoriented. "It's a biological agent," Mech realized aloud, "specifically designed to affect Vex physiology." Kroll stared in shock at the tactical display as hundreds of his ships began drifting out of formation, their crews incapacitated. How could they know our biology so precisely? "The captured ships," Mech said grimly. "They must have studied our people as well as our technology." Kroll felt a cold rage building inside him. These humans were fighting without honor, without following the established rules of warfare. They used trickery and targeted weaknesses instead of meeting strength with strength. "Launch all remaining reserves," he ordered. "Every ship we have. I want that defensive line broken, now." The remaining Vex ships that hadn't been affected by the biological agent surged forward, firing their massive energy weapons at the human fleet. Several Earth vessels took direct hits, exploding in brilliant flashes. For a moment, Crawl felt the tide turning back in his favor, but then something unexpected happened again. "Admiral, we're detecting numerous small craft launching from the Earth's surface," reported the sensor officer. The tactical display showed hundreds of tiny vessels, barely large enough for a single pilot, rising from the planet below. "What are those?" Crawl demanded. The bridge of the Dominion was in chaos. Warning alarms blared as damage reports flooded in from all sections of the massive flagship. The view screen showed a scene that Admiral Crawl had never imagined possible. The once mighty Vex armada in disarray, with hundreds of ships disabled, captured, or actively fighting against their former comrades. "Admiral," the tactical officer called out, his voice strained. "We've lost contact with the entire third battle group. The humans have somehow taken control of our command frequencies." Crawl stared at the tactical display in disbelief. In just 6 hours of battle, his overwhelming advantage had been cut in half. Nearly 2,000 Vex ships were now either disabled or under human control. The remaining vessels were surrounded, caught in a web of smaller, faster human craft that darted in and out of their formation, causing maximum disruption. "This cannot be happening," Crawl muttered, more to himself than to his officers. "We outnumbered them 100 to 1. Officer Mech approached cautiously. "Admiral, we've received a communication from the flagship of our second battle group. They've been boarded. Commander Jax is requesting permission to activate self-destruct protocols." Crawl's head snapped up. "Denied. No Vex vessel has ever self-destructed to avoid capture. It is against all protocols." "Admiral," Mech pressed, "these are not normal circumstances. The humans are systematically capturing our technology and turning it against us. If this continues—" "Enough," Crawl roared, slamming all 4 of his arms down on the command console. "I will not be the first admiral in Vex history to lose a fleet. Gather all remaining operational ships. Form a spearhead formation. We will make a direct assault on the human homeworld." The officers on the bridge exchanged uncertain glances, but began relaying the orders. The remaining Vex ships, still numbering nearly 2,000, began to move into the attack formation. "Plot a course directly to their largest population center," Crawl ordered. "We will show these humans the consequence of defying the Vex Empire." The massive engines of the Dominion flared as the flagship moved to the head of the formation. The spearhead of ships accelerated toward Earth, their weapons charging for a devastating first strike. "Sir," called the communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the humans." "Ignore it," Crawl snapped. "They wish to beg for mercy. It is too late." "Admiral," Mech said firmly, "I strongly recommend you hear what they have to say. Intelligence gathering is still valuable, even in difficult situations." Crawl glared at his second-in-command, but gave a curt nod. "Put it through." The main view screen shifted to show Captain Reed. He looked tired but determined, with a calm confidence that infuriated Crawl. "Admiral Crawl," Reed said evenly, "you're moving your remaining ships into position for a direct attack on Earth. I'm contacting you to offer terms of surrender." Crawl let out a harsh laugh. "You offer me terms? Your arrogance is astounding, human. Your planet will burn for this insolence." Reed's expression didn't change. "Admiral, I'm not offering our surrender. I'm offering to accept yours." The bridge fell silent. Crawl stared at the human, momentarily speechless with rage. "We currently control over 900 of your ships," Reed continued calmly. "We've analyzed your weapons systems and defensive capabilities. We know exactly how to counter them. We have deployed our special forces to key positions around your remaining fleet. Most importantly, we have successfully transmitted all of this information to our colonies throughout the solar system." Reed leaned closer to the camera. "Even if you somehow destroy Earth, Admiral, humanity will survive. And we will never stop hunting the Vex. We will take your technology and improve it. We will study your biology and understand it. We will follow you back to your empire and dismantle it piece by piece. The human's voice remained level, which somehow made his words even more chilling. Or you can surrender now. We will allow your crews to return home. We will even permit you to keep half your fleet. In exchange, the Vex Empire will recognize Earth and its solar system as sovereign territory, never to be violated again. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Crawl turned to his tactical officer. Proceed with the attack. Full power to all weapons. The officer hesitated, then began entering the commands. The Vex fleet continued its advance toward Earth, weapons systems charging to maximum power. Weapons at full capacity, Admiral, reported the tactical officer. Target locked on the human population center they call New York. Firing in 10 seconds. Crawl watched the countdown on the tactical display, a sense of grim satisfaction building within him. The humans had fought well, but the Vex Empire would not be denied its conquest. "Sir," called the sensor officer suddenly, "I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from the captured Vex vessels. They're targeting our weapons systems." Before Crawl could respond, a coordinated barrage from the captured ships struck the Dominion and the vessels surrounding it. The attacks were precisely aimed at weapons control systems, disabling them without destroying the ships themselves. "Weapons offline," reported the tactical officer. "They somehow knew exactly where to hit us." Crawl stood frozen in shock as more reports flooded in. Throughout his fleet, the same pattern was repeating. Precision strikes disabling weapons, but leaving the ships intact. "Admiral," said the communications officer, "we're receiving transmissions from multiple ship captains. They're requesting permission to stand down." "What?" Crawl's voice was barely a whisper. "They wish to surrender." "Yes, Admiral. Captain Dorn of the Conquest says his crew refuses to continue what they see as a suicide mission." Mech stepped forward. "Admiral, the captains are making a rational decision. We cannot win this battle. Not with conventional means." Something broke inside Crawl at that moment. His carefully maintained control, his absolute confidence in Vex superiority. It all crumbled away, leaving nothing but desperate fury. "I will not accept defeat," he roared. "Open a channel to all ships. Authorization, Crawl Alpha Strike." Mech's eyes widened in alarm. "Admiral, that's the planetary annihilation protocol. It would violate all accepted rules of warfare." The Emperor himself wooled. "The Emperor is not here," Crawl snarled. "I will not return in disgrace. If we cannot conquer this world, we will destroy it utterly. Open the channel." The communications officer looked to Mech, clearly torn between following Crawl's orders and the obvious madness of the command. Mech made his decision. With a quick motion, he drew his sidearm and pointed it at Crawl. "Admiral Crawl, I am relieving you of command under Emergency Protocol 7. Your judgment is compromised." Crawl stared at his second-in-command in disbelief. "This is mutiny." "This is preservation," Mech replied firmly. "Of our crews, our honor, and what remains of our fleet." The other bridge officers slowly moved to stand behind Mech. None of them had ever imagined taking such action against their admiral, but the alternative was unthinkable. Crawl looked around at the faces of his crew, faces that had once shown nothing but respect and fear. Now he saw only determination and pity. "Take the admiral to his quarters," Mech ordered. "Place him under guard." As two security officers approached, Crawl did not resist. His body felt suddenly heavy, his mind numb with the reality of what had happened. As he was led from the bridge, Crawl glanced one last time at the tactical display. The once mighty Vex armada, his armada, was now surrounded by the ships of a species he had dismissed as primitive and weak. In his quarters, under guard, Crawl activated his personal log. For a long moment, he stared at the recording device, struggling to find words that could explain the inexplicable. "Final log of Admiral Crawl," he began, his voice hollow. "The conquest of Earth has failed. We outnumbered them 100 to 1. Our technology was superior. Our tactics were proven across 17 successful campaigns, and yet we were defeated. He paused, gathering his thoughts. The humans do not fight like any species we have encountered. They do not follow the established protocols of warfare. They adapt. They improvise. They use their very weakness as a weapon, turning our strength against us. They captured our ships and learned our technology faster than should be possible. They studied our biology and created weapons specifically designed to target us. Crawl's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Most terrifying of all, they showed no fear. Even when facing overwhelming odds, they fought with a determination I have never witnessed. It was as if the concept of defeat simply does not exist in their minds. He looked up at the small viewport in his quarters, where Earth was visible as a blue-green sphere against the blackness of space. I now understand why the humans have survived on their hostile world. They are not physically imposing. They are not naturally armored. They are not even particularly strong. But they are the most adaptable, most innovative, most terrifyingly unpredictable species in the galaxy. Crawl's 3 eyes closed briefly as he contemplated the future. I leave this warning to all who might consider the conquest of Earth. Do not underestimate humans. Their greatest strength is their apparent weakness. They turn disadvantage into advantage. They learn. They adapt. And they never, ever surrender. He reached forward to end the recording, then paused to add one final thought. We outnumbered them 100 to 1. And still, we were defeated. May the Empire never make the same mistake again. As Crawl ended his log, he heard the sound of his door opening. Officer Mech entered, his expression solemn. "It is done," Mech said simply. "I have accepted the human terms. Half our fleet will return to the Empire. The rest." He hesitated. "The rest will remain here as tribute and guarantee of our compliance." Crawl nodded slowly. "And what of me?" "You will face the Emperor's judgment," Mech replied. "As will I for the mutiny." "It was not mutiny," Crawl said quietly. "It was wisdom, something I lacked." He turned to look at Earth once more. "We may have lost this battle, Mech, but I fear the Empire has gained a far more dangerous enemy than it ever imagined." As the Dominion began its long journey home, Admiral Crawl, the first Vex commander to ever taste defeat, watched the blue planet recede into the distance, knowing that the galaxy would never be the same again.